The Maze Runner by James Dashner is one of those series I think a lot of people have heard of but haven't necessarily read or really know that much about. It probably because it hasn't had the same cultural impact as a lot of other dystopias. It's essentially a sort of male take on the Hunger Games. It came out a year after the Hunger Games, very much in that period of Hunger Games, not rip-offs, but inspired books like Divergent. But this one more male-orientated because like nearly 100% of the cast are male. It's about a character called Thomas who wakes up in a box with no memories and enters a place called the Glade, a safe haven in the centre of a vast maze where similarly memory-challenged boys are living in a sort of commune. Their only chance of survival to solve the maze and escape to freedom. But it is no ordinary maze. The walls move at night and hideous, deadly creatures skulk the corridors. And why does Thomas feel like he's been here before? So this book is actually very exciting. It definitely draws you in with this world it's created, and it keeps you turning the page because there's always something going on, whether you're trying to discover what the maze is or what the Glade is, or you're following Thomas as he goes out into the maze and discovers new parts of the Glade and all that. And this is helped by the fact that you've got really good world building. I loved all the details about how like the commune functions, all the different roles that the boys have created for themselves, all the names of things, like the sloppers are sort of the cleaners and the creatures in the maze are called grievers, things like that. They've got their own sort of system of swear words like shank and, oh there's another one but I forgot what it is. But they're good words. They're obviously not swear words, so you know, you can still market the book towards kids. But they sound like swear words, you know, with those really harsh sounds. And I mean, shank to me as a Brit just means a knife, but it was creatively used. So I thought that was a really good element. The puzzle and the maze and all of that really keeps you mentally engaged. There's lots of little clues that are dropped, and you sort of know there has to be a solution. And Thomas is constantly working towards that solution. And it does give you clues that actually you could work out quite a lot of elements, you know, if you think about it enough, which I enjoyed. It doesn't feel like they just rug sweep you at any point. And there is a real sense of danger throughout. Quite literally, any of the characters could die apart from Thomas. All the characters are set up as characters who will die, and you think, well, not all of them are going to die. Or they might, but you think not all of them are going to die, but you're not quite sure which ones will. Because you think, oh, well, that character's definitely going to die, but actually so could that character, and that character's also set up to die, and that one. And so there is a real sense of danger and sort of trepidation. You always worry that actually any of these characters would die. So that was pretty good as well, and it keeps you engaged. However, not a perfect book. This isn't the best written thing. It's very telly, over-showing, especially with Thomas's feelings towards pretty much everything. We're constantly being told how he feels and what he's thinking in very sort of obvious strokes, which is quite tiresome. I would have appreciated a little bit more implication of his feelings, or maybe try to describe them in a more interesting way, but the characters are also quite flat, so even though any of them could die at any moment, you don't really care that much. I mean, the only character I really liked was probably Newt, and I don't know why, probably because his name was Newt, and I thought that was funny. The other characters are they're a bit dull. I mean, Gully's just like cartoonishly evil, and the Chuck is just sort of the irritating comedic sidekick who's obviously going to die at some point. He's the one that you knew was going to die. Spoilers, kind of, but not really. You know, Albie's like the harsh, stoic leader, and they're a bit boring, a bit cardboard cutout. It's also quite a frustrating read because when Thomas first enters the Glade, he obviously wants to know what's going on because he doesn't know who he is or what's happening. And none of the characters really tell him very much, which always seemed a bit odd. Like, there's no reason for them not to tell him. They just tell him to shut up and stop acting that way because he's new and should shut up. Which is very frustrating when it happens again and again and again. You just think, well, I just want some answers at this point, and you're just putting them off for no good reason. So it's quite irritating. And it doesn't make any sense of why they keep him in the dark for so long. It's good when they do finally explain things, but it just seemed a bit unnecessary to leave it for so long. And the pacing is really quite strange. At the first, I'd say most of the book takes place over a few days. I think about a week. The first one's over a week. And everything's is described in so much detail that it feels like it's longer than a week. And at one point in the book, Thomas realised he's only been there for 24 hours. And I thought, gosh, it feels like he's been there for way longer than that. Because it's so slow. Not in a good way. It just feels like too much happens in not a huge space of time. Which I didn't really like. As far as dystopias go, this one is a bit like a bag of sweets. It's very Moorish and easy to get through, but it's not the most filling or nutritious of meals. It's probably pretty good for people who don't read very much, especially of that sort of 11 to 13 age range. It's accessible and it's exciting with some reference to sort of societal structures and leadership and that sort of thing and puzzle solving, but it doesn't throw too much at you. It's not too graphic for the precious children. There's no real swear words in there. It's quite tame, but it does introduce some of those deeper ideas that more adult dystopias go into. And it does keep them engaged. Like, there are kids at the school I work at who do genuinely like this book, and they're not huge readers. So it's got its merits in that instance, but it's maybe not so good for veteran readers of the sort of dystopic genre, or adults. Maybe a bit babyish for you. This is the first in a series. Will I read the other books in the series? I don't know. I might. I found most of the exciting parts, the sort of the maze stuff in this book, and slight spoiler, the maze doesn't really necessarily feature after this book, I don't think. I think people know that already. I feel like I knew that before I went into it. So I don't know. One of the drawers has sort of been taken out, but we'll see. So that's all I've got to say on this one. See you next time. Bye.